Hey everyone, welcome to my review of SHODO Super GoGoV 5. SHODO Super GoGoV 5 is Bandai Candy Toy's second premium outing in the SHODO Super line, and right out of package, they've got no hands. Hold on. So, as with most Candy Toy releases, there's a bit of a model kit aspect to them. Thankfully, they don't have too much in the way of a build process. Really, the work just comes down to two things. The first is clipping off the hands from the sprues. It would be pretty innocuous if there weren't so many. Each figure comes packed with 13 of them. 2 punchy fists, 2 choppy hands, 2 relaxed hands? Food tray holding hands? I'm not sure what these are. Splayed open hands, trigger fingers, holdy hands, and a pointed finger. Pink even has her own set with a distinct sprue. The Candy Toy blog pointed out that her hands were sized down to fit with the proportions of the figure, but when you have them all piled together, there's no way to differentiate them from the male hands. The peg sizes aren't even different, so make sure to keep them separated. The second of the build process comes with the stickers, and we'll get to them in a bit. For now, this is how the figures look individually. The sculpts are great, with wrinkled fabric details and faux suit lines all over the body. The proportions are just right as well. The helmets are properly sized to each body. Pink has subtle mold differences in nearly every limb to make her smaller while not making her look like a twig. I'm looking at you, Bandai America. Something that the blog really wanted to mention was the head. They recreated the in-show look with a glossy helmet. Or at least they tried. Not sure if it's just my eyes, but from certain angles, they seem to have a slight matte finish. Pink especially. If you look closely, she also has a gash in her left cheek for some reason, right next to the mold mark. In fact, a few of them retain that imperfection. In the grand scheme, it's not too bad, but these are premium Bandai figures, and it would have been nice if they paid more attention to that. Outside of that, the visor gets a nice gloss to it. In terms of painting, everything looks pretty crisp. There are a few times where it falls out of the lines, but it's not so egregious. The gold belts are a standout to me, as well as the blue detail in the recesses of the belt. The only true break on the sculpt that isn't from the articulation is in the back, where you can mount almost any 3mm peg, specifically the Shokugan base. Anyway, speaking of articulation. Alright, so all 4 of these guys are basically the same figure. So I'm just going to use green because he's more interesting to me. And I really like the articulation on these things. There's a ball joint in the top of the neck, but it's really hard to make it swivel around past a certain point. There's like this divot in the neck that like bumps in with the chin, so it can't swivel past that. It has a tough time moving up on that axis. Same with the base of the neck. It can only nod that much, but you know, you do get the full 360. We also show off the little plank in the back here too. As for the chest though, oh my god, the range of motion here is great in tandem with the waist ball joint. And you can get like that significant up tilt. Look at that. So yeah, that's really neat. I'm sure you definitely can't get a 360, but you can get like a very organic looking turn here. It breaks up the sculpt a bit, but that's fine. Up here in the shoulders, you have a butterfly joint, which is really nice to see, especially at this scale. And that butterfly joint is on a ball joint, so the shoulder can go out and do all of these wonderful things. Bicep swivel, fantastic. And then a hinge here at the elbow that gets a little past a 90-degree angle, so that's pretty good. And then here, just because, you know, these are a peg, these swivel around there. Moving over to the legs, we have the standard drop crotch, so that so when you're posing this guy, the legs, they can't inch inward, but if you have these down, there you go. You can, I guess, put the legs together if you want a more elegant looking pose, or a tightrope walking pose. Either way, that's helpful for that, and it also helps get the leg out there.
The regular range of motion really only gets you this much and this far back, but with that out, you get this much and this far back. So it's very helpful, especially when you want to get into deeper poses like this, and those joints are basically hidden again. I love that. And it has been coming standard on pretty much all the Sentai, or at least all the Shodo figures recently, at least the new molds and stuff. Up here we have a ball-jointed hip. We saw that earlier. You get that much out that way. About the same when you drop the crotch. You have a swivel here at the... Oh, come on, why isn't it working? It's a bit of an impeded swivel, I guess, here at the thigh. And then you get a generous knee joint here. I'd say there's only about 45 degrees left here. It's at a 45 degree angle, so that's really good. It does mean it cuts into the sculpt like this, but I mean, honestly, that's fine. You're not really looking at it from the back anyway. Ball jointed ankles here, and you get that much of a tilt, but you also get, you know, full on swivel. These are pretty nice. I like it. Everything in tandem works very well. Cool. Oh, also, right here, this holster here swivels. Would do a 360, but, you know, bumps in to the arm. Anyway, that's it for the guys. Oh, let's take a look at the very first female mold. Alright, so really, this is pretty much the exact same, except it has a skirt. And now, the skirt doesn't really impede motion too much. I really like the way they handled the skirt. So basically, it pegs in via 2 pegs in the front and in the back. She also gets the drop crotch as well. But what this mounting point does is that, you know, if you have the skirt all done up like this, and you happen to move her leg out a bit too much for this to handle, the pegs will pop out before ripping or tearing the PVC here. So I really appreciate that. I would rather have these pegs fail than the skirt rip. And these are 2 separate pieces, and it's really nice. That cut, oops, well, that's neat. That cut helps you get the leg out that far, so that's really nice. Oops. Huh, okay. You get, that's another thing. Hold on. Basically it's really tough to get to just because it's seated so far in, but it is not too difficult to wobble the legs back in, because this crotch section does move, and it does that on the male figures as well. So that's one of the only difficulties. Anyway, once again, her range of motion is exactly the same, except, you know, impeded skirt motion. I am absolutely okay with this skirt solution. There have been a lot of different skirt solutions, specifically with Yudo before, is one of the most recent ones that I've dealt with, as well as SHODO, and this is, you know, with PVC, it's one of the better options. Anyway, moving on to accessories.
As for accessories, I guess we're going back to the build portion. So just like with the hands, it isn't so much a build process more than it is taking the items off of the sprue, and really it's only these 2 items. The gun is easy enough to take off, and cleanup should be pretty easy just because it is more of a solid piece. The sword, however, is a different story. The sword portion, or the rod portion, is really flimsy, so just make sure to have some ample backing right behind it so you can shave that nub mark down a little easier. Like I said at the top, there are stickers, but a majority of them seem fairly justified. In application, there are definitely some of these, specifically the V-Lancer, that could use a little TLC. If you take the pointed part of either of the guns, you can massage the details into the stickers since there's molding underneath. When all said and done, there's an incredible layout here. Everyone comes with their 5 laser in gun and stick mode. They even have an empty version of the pouch for when the weapon is in hand, which Kinda shows off how different the gold plastic is to the painted gold, but it's fine. From far away, it's barely noticeable. While we're looking at it though, the holstered version looks a little strange to me. I know it has a little more to do with how the mold works, but in some areas it does look like the 3D model has been like stretched sideways just a tad to accommodate the range of motion in the legs. It's just a strange thing that I noticed. It's not even a nitpick. Jumping back, both versions of the weapon look great. I like the way the stickers subtly individualize the weapons by putting their individual numbers on the laser grip portion. It makes you understand why they decided to go with stickers instead of paint or tampograph printing. Next, let's take a look at the Go Blaster. This was completely molded in gray, which, once again, perfectly valid. The stickers that wrap around it do a good job at filling in the detail. Once again, each of the Go Blasters are individualized for each ranger, but this time by way of color. For all the line's dedication to completeness, however, they do not come with a Go Blaster in Rescue Mode or Hyper Mode. At this point, I should probably bring up the holding hands. There's one set of hands made for holding just about everything, and they serve their purpose well, but the grasp is rather loose for certain items. There's one set of hands, however, that's built specifically for one accessory. These are the 5 laser holding hands, and in the instructions, they only go with the one weapon in the one form. I found it strange that they took up 2 hand slots specifically for one item. It would be one thing if it held it well, but first off, you have to force them in, and that feels terrible. Thank God for the flexible plastic. And second, once it's in, they don't even fit properly. I fail to see the point of these hands when we have perfectly good grip hands. You could argue that since the finger is out, it's meant for the trigger, but it doesn't even fit inside. They also don't bother with that trigger consideration for any of the other trigger-like weapons. For the sake of sanity, store these off somewhere safe and never look at them again. The grip hands work perfectly fine, especially for the laser grip. The laser grip is the linchpin to a few weapons here. It has the individual numbers of each of the rangers and has 2 weapons to hook into. The first is the V-Lancer, and this thing looks fantastic. It's properly sized for each ranger and even sports a painted tip. Like we saw earlier, the majority of the detail is done in the stickers, and these are by far the easiest of the set to smooth in. My only qualm is with the diameter of the pole. The main one in the middle of the V is smaller than the ones at the end, and it flops around a bit too easy for my liking. While I get that the thickness discrepancy is accurate, I think it would have been fine to take some creative liberties here. Like I was saying earlier, you can connect these with the laser grip to make the V machine gun, which looks great but isn't 100% accurate. The back part here shouldn't stick out as far in this mode, and the blade is supposed to sink in. As a rough approximation, however, this is perfectly serviceable. Would you have known had I told you? I didn't think so. The second use of the laser grip has you bring in one of the biggest draws of this set, Lifebird. Lifebird itself is quite adorable. It sports a decent range of motion along with plenty of gold and silver paint. But once again, you'll need to do some stickering to get it up to spec. This little birdie is actually pretty well articulated. Each wing is on a swivel, which has a generous range of motion, same with the hips. The claws move individually as well to help it perch, though it is tough to balance it on anyone's arm. The head is on a swivel, but something about the tolerances make it so that you can't get the head looking straight. The chest construction is rather weak, so moving the head too much sometimes knocks it right out and opens up the chest a bit. But if you take this piece right here and swap it out with the neck, you get a straight ahead look for flight poses, but I will admit, there is no 3mm peg for a flight pose. Thankfully, the Shokugan base does have these little armatures to make that happen. Anyway, this little figure has quite a few tricks up its sleeve. If you bring back the original neck, completely break apart the figure, and bring the laser grips in, each ranger gets their individual weapons. Proportionally, these are quite accurate and a lot of fun to pose them with. To me, the only failing here is that the bottom claw on Yellow's weapon doesn't move up to close properly. The final trick this thing can pull off is combining into the main weapon, which is mostly done by putting the weapons back into bird mode and then sticking the head on its butt by replacing the tail part. This thing is absolutely massive all put together, but it is pretty light. Any one of these figures can hold it on their own, no problem. As a group though, this looks fantastic. With all that said, is this whole set worth it? Well, this set retails for in and around $100. I got mine from Toku Collectibles for $105 with free shipping, but I've seen it listed on Mandarake for around $100 before shipping. Even if all 5 of them make it into an equivalent line, no other series is going to be this comprehensive. With all the weapons included, this is an absolute treat, especially with the articulated little life bird. The joints on these figures are smooth and done in a solid ABS rather than the gummy plastic of Western toys. One could argue that the model kit nature of these figures could set them off. Sure, the hands are tedious busy work, but it's not something that one evening with some nice music can't solve. The stickers are another thing you might be worried about, and that's an absolutely valid complaint. Without substituting the stickers for paint, there's no way to get the detail without them, but I will say, if they do worry you that much, a completely stickerless build is totally valid. For a good majority of these stickers, they really only pick out the small details. Sure, you could argue the V-Lancers, and that's, once again, absolutely a valid complaint, but overall, as an experience without the stickers, it's completely serviceable. You could argue scale is an issue, and honestly, this is where I show the most bias. It's up to your personal preference, but for my collection, it fits perfectly. Here they are with SHODO Super Sun Vulcan, SHODO Kuga, SHODO Kamen Rider Saber coming soon, shodo-x Kira Major, a Bandai America action figure, and a basic Beast Morphers figure. I don't actually have a Lightning figure to compare this to, but I'm sure this is the same size. Once again, my collection may be biased in terms of scale, but value-wise, if this Fortnite figure can come out at retail with all these items for $20, then this one figure with all of its accessories are worth that price. Anyway, those are just my thoughts. Have I convinced you to buy it yet? Are you still unsure? Leave your thoughts in the comments down below. We are at the start of a brand new line here with 2 sets under its belt and hopefully more on the way. Now is the best time to give them a shot. Anyways everyone, thank you so much for giving this video a watch. It took me quite a while to put it together, but if you like this video, hit the like button and subscribe if you want to hear more from us each week. There are also links in the description down below to how you can help support the Black Lives Matter movement by donating money, signing petitions, whatever you do, as long as you do it. It absolutely helps. And at the end card of this video, it's a playlist that I put together of videos, YouTube videos that are donating their ad revenue to the Black Lives Matter movement. So all you have to do is watch through those videos, and then the ad revenue is donated. Everyone, thank you so much for watching. Keep it